Hey, everybody. Hey, beloved. Glad you are here. Listen, man, oh man, oh man, have I got a barn burner for you tonight. It is going to be a lot of resources. And I guess, I should wait to say that, but, because I got a little spot, a graphic for it, but a lot of resources tonight so that you can look this information up on your own. All right, it's very, very important that you get this and that you get it good. If you are going to be the smartest person in the room, it is required because people are going to ask you questions and you have got to know what you are talking about, right? Because this is controversial, but it's all good. When you know what it is you're talking about, nobody can take that knowledge away from you. We've been showing you and talking about, oh, Corvette clock just went off. Sorry about that. Am I ahead of myself? But anyway, what we've been talking about, just really requires having some knowledge, right? Because this goes against the grain. Let me make this work right for you. Sorry about that. So this cuts against the grain, right? It's I've been studying this for years, but I'm giving you enough so that you will be convinced and can share with other people, right? And if you have a pen, although as I've said to you before, the best way to kind of recap these, if I'm on Facebook Live and YouTube Live at the same time. But Facebook, as my timeline moves, harder to find. Not harder to find, but just, how it works. But on YouTube, you can stop, pause, that kind of thing. It just, it's all there under the Urban Apologetics channel. Okay. And so these sources that I'm going to give you, these places that you can go and look these various things up, is going to be there and it's going to be stagnant for you. So encourage you to do that. Let me pop this up real quick. Urban Apologetics channel, not but Urban Apologetics channel, and on Facebook, that is there as well. Just want to make sure that those got on camera. Okay. This is our adult time together. Christmas story time. Next week, I'm going to do a series bow. Now, what I'm giving you this week Normally could take 2 or 3 weeks. So this is condensed, but it's solid. And next week, what I will give you in the series, Bo, is a synopsis, although brief. When I've done this series on the radio called Christmas in July, and it takes, I think the Bo was 4 messages, something like that. Shorter in time. My drive time show is 15 minutes. So shorter in duration, but it still took 4 messages to get through it. So depending on how, it goes for us, it's going to take, should take, at least 2. But we're not going to be able to do that. I will design this a little bit different next year, make sure that we have time. I got COVID, so that was something that slowed us down. But anyway, there'll be lots of links and resources. It's very important that you verify the things that I'm saying to you, okay? I'm going to try to be careful tonight because there's going to be a lot of reading. I need you to understand that most of what I'm reading are quotes from specific sources. And I'm going to try to make sure that you're clear on that. But the bottom line is what I have been saying to you, and that is that the Christmas celebration has absolutely nothing to do with Jesus. All they did was put his name on it. There's no connection. And there are, various statements that have been made that make it clear who did this and why they did this. Now, I brought a question to your attention. Just to make you think a little bit. The Bible says, don't be bound together with unbelievers. For what partnership have righteousness with lawlessness, or unrighteousness, says in some versions, or what fellowship has light with darkness, or what harmony has Messiah, Mashiach, talking about Jesus, with Belial, which is the devil, right? Or what has a believer in common with an unbeliever? The question that I'm asking is that very thing. Why is it that at Christmas time, Christians and pagans can get along just fine? Nobody's fighting and saying we should not celebrate Christmas. Pagans aren't coming in and saying we shouldn't celebrate Christmas because it's about Jesus. No, because it's not. Yeah, that should be a clue to us. If the world accepts the Christmas celebration, and I mean the world, this isn't just in America, I mean the world. Why is that acceptable? All of these various, India has 2 million gods at least. But there are still forms of Christmas that they celebrate. Why? Because it has nothing to do with Jesus. That's just a common sense area of it. When the Bible is constantly talking about there's no fellowship with light and darkness, that there's believers and unbelievers, that we're going to be hated by the world. All of these different verses that tell us come out from among them, be separated. All these verses that tell us that there's no way that we can walk in agreement with the world. And the only reason that we do is because the church has compromised. That's just, to me, that makes a red flag go up, and I want to know why the two can get along on December 25th. That's kind of where my question started. Wait a minute, this is odd. I'm reading these verses about we're not supposed to be getting along. Why is this happening? And just like I did last time and the time before that, showing you all of these pagan gods whose birth date is December the 25th. They forced Jesus into that. And I've heard people say, well, Christmas is whatever you make it. No. It's what they designed it to be. Going all the way back to Genesis chapter 10 with Nimrod. You don't get to just that's the compromise that was made in the first place. Just joining in with what the world is doing and putting a Christian name on it, a Christian spin on it, but they're still sacrificing babies every year. They're still doing human sacrifice. They're still worshiping these pagan gods. They're still having parades in Europe. They're still going out into the desert of Arizona and burning on this video they have burning these this rugs and things like that pertaining to the Last Supper. They're still insulting our God while we're participating in something that belongs to them, and they're laughing at us. Many of them, not all. Some people they don't know what I'm telling you. They just know this is the pagan God that we worship, and these Christians, for some reason, think that it's cool to, that their Lord was born on the same day as many of these gods that we worship. Wasn't planning on that rant, but I'm glad that I did it. It's important for us to take a look at this because the Bible is telling us, don't take part in works of darkness. Don't participate. And as I've said to you before, that none of this is new. These forms of pagan worship have been going on. Listen, Urban Apologetics channel is designed to talk about Black biblical history and other things that have gone on in history as it pertains to Black folks, the good and the bad, certainly more of the good, but revealing our connections to the biblical narrative. Well, as I've said, you got to take the good with the bad. Nimrod was the first king that ever walked the face of the earth, right? He was a conqueror of lands. He and Semiramis, his wife, mother, we'll see that in just a second, set up these false pagan styles of worship under different names, because there's different languages, but set them up all over. And they're still going on today. Let me read this to you. I don't know if that's okay for you to see or not, but I got my own copy. So let me read this to you. God's born on December 25th. We've gone over some of this, but there's some names here that we didn't talk about before. Apollo, Attis, Bacchus, Dionysus, son of Zeus. And there's some, well, I'll get to that in a minute. Helios, Hercules, Horus, Jupiter, Mithras, Perseus, Sol Invictus, or unconquered sun, talking about Tammuz. All right. These are in different parts of the world, beloved. These are different, but this isn't all in one location. Different parts of the world. Nimrod, who eventually came to be worshipped as Baal, Samhain, Halloween, all the same thing. Different names, different places, same forms of worship. The names just changed. According to the ancient Babylonian tradition, Semiramis, later known as the goddess Astarte, Asherah pole and all that kind of stuff, Ashtoreth, all right, this is Mount Carmel and all the stuff that Elijah was dealing with, Isis, Ishtar, which is where we get Easter in other pagan religions, claimed that after the untimely death of her husband Nimrod, that was real funky, a full-grown evergreen tree sprang up overnight from a dead tree stump. Semiramis claimed that Nimrod would visit that evergreen tree and leave gifts each year on the anniversary of his birth, which just happened to be on December 25th. And many say this is the true origin of Christmas. Come on, man. You can't unknow this once you know it. You can't unknow this once you know it. That December 25th has a plethora of pagan gods attached to it. And Jesus in no way whatsoever is connected. And this is one of the ways that it happened. St. Gregory, Pope Gregory I, was asked by St. Augustine on how to convert the ancient Druids to Christianity. Pope Gregory advised to accommodate the ceremonies of Christian churches as much as possible to those of the heathen, thereby furthering the church's use of supplanting pagan midwinter festivals into the now official Roman religion. How do we do it? Put Christian names on pagan gods. As a matter of fact, pagans didn't even need to change what they were doing. It's false worship. It's worship of the sun god. Now, you may be asking, and I certainly cannot blame you for asking, what exactly does this have to do, right, as I announced, what does this have to do with the fireplace? All right, I'm going to read some stuff, and I hope this isn't laborious for you, but I'm going to read some things to you that can say it better, I think, than I can. As I said, some of these are quotes, and some of these are my own work. But, you know, one of the questions that I asked in one of my ads is, who are children being taught to emulate? You got Santa Claus going, Jesus going, you got the elves going, you got all of this stuff that's happening at the same time, and the focus is crazy. I'm not talking about putting Christ back in Christmas. I'm talking about understanding that he was never there in the first place. No connection whatsoever other than putting his name on that filth. All right, the significance of the fireplace. Question, why is the fireplace so significant in the Christmas story? Why does Santa use this as his entry point? Even people who don't have a fireplace will go out and buy a fake one during this holiday. Have you ever wondered where this came from? See, a lot of this stuff when it comes to wreaths and the decoration with greenery, that kind of stuff, the balls on the Christmas tree, colored balls, the lights, we just do it, the tree itself, we just do, we're not thinking about why we're doing them. Deeper history shows that the concept of Santa Claus and his elves, which are demons, okay, we talked about a little bit about this last week. Let me just keep going. Is not new. Ancient pagans worship the god of Hearth. Hearth gods. That's what we're about to talk about. A hearth is the floor of a fireplace or floor just in front of the fireplace. And there's an explanation, but you know what the front of a fireplace, what that looks like. Okay. That little ledge that's right there in the front. He would bring Santa Claus, talking about he would bring gifts and blessings down the chimney. Food and drink offerings would be left for him. If the food and drink offerings were not acceptable, you would receive a curse. Milk and cookies would be left for Santa or the god of Hearth, gods, ghosts, goblins who walk the earth on winter's longest night, December the 25th. The Hearth gods were and are outfitted in red. All right. And I got a note there, about these practices continuing today. So these Hearth gods, all about the coming down the chimney and that Santa Claus does that, all about these elves and all that's included in that. Hold on just a second. It's something I didn't want to do. I want you to see all of these graphics because I want this to become very clear what these things really, really are. Fireplace wasn't just, let's decorate by the fireplace. No. It's a part of pagan worship. It's a place of pagan worship. Okay? Let me say this now, so hopefully, I think it's in my notes, I'll say it later. People would build their houses and the fireplace would be in the center, and it's the first thing that's built because you believe that fire, that chimney, that that pagan god came down through that and would bless hearth and home. So you decorated it so that this pagan god could leave you gifts there, could be blessed by, I guess you got to be a good baker, by the milk and cookies or whatever the gift may have been, gingerbread men or whatever. If they're pleased, then they leave you a gift. If they're not, they curse you. It's not God. It is a pagan god. But that's what the fireplace in the chimney is all about. Santa lands his sleigh on the roof. He comes down the chimney with a bag of gifts, places his presents under the tree, fills the stockings over the fireplace, grabs some milk and cookies, and heads up the chimney. And he does this 1 billion times in one night. It's the sun god, people. It's pagan worship. It's all these pagan gods, and it started with Nimrod. All right, going to give you a source after this. Santa was a common name for Nimrod throughout Asia Minor. Now, I didn't write this. This was also the same fire god who came down the chimneys of ancient pagans. Langer's Encyclopedia of World History. There's an article there that is on Santa. And so you see in the picture here where Nimrod is carrying, the same kind of little tree that Santa might be carrying and all of that, to make sure that that there are similarities from the ancient world and there are similarities in the modern world of the way Santa conducts himself. This practice of the god of the fireplace or hearth gods continued beyond Nimrod. The names may have changed as we have discovered with other pagan traditions, but the essence and the purpose of the practice remains the same. One clear connection is all hearth gods, sun gods, birthday celebrations were in December. The hearth is actually a fireplace ledge, and I've already talked about this. All right. Well, let me read this anyway, because there's a piece here that you didn't get. The hearth is actually the fireplace ledge area in front of the fireplace. This area of the fireplace and the rest serve as an altar. Serve as an altar. And there are pagan gods that are connected. Now we're going to deal with two, Hestia and Vesta. Hestia was the virgin pagan god in Greece. Supposed to be gentle. She protected her hearth and home. Her element was fire. She would come down through fire. Nimrod was supposed to be coming down through the element of fire. We read that. Vesta is in Rome, and she was doing the same thing. Two different names, the exact same worship. So let's start with Hestia. She is a Greek goddess who is the god of warmth and comfort. The fireplace is her symbol. The main fireplace, or the living flame of Hestia, was never allowed to burn out. So if a new town was being built, someone would take from another town the fire of Hestia, and it would take it to the center of that town where they would build a fire, and that fire was never to go out. As a matter of fact, if they went into battle or something like that, they would carry some of that fire as a way of having that goddess with them. All right. As new towns were built, her flame would be carried to that town so that they would have her blessing. All homes contained a fireplace. The fireplace was in the center of the home and was the first thing to be built. In other words, the homes were built from the center out. This is taken from Goddess Gift by Sharon Turnbull, PhD, Hestia, Greek goddess of hearth and home. All right, Vesta of Rome. The sacred fire of the goddess Vesta, who in Roman mythology was the goddess of Hearth and the goddess of fire. And the smoke was central to Roman piety. The Roman goddess, this is where this is from, the Roman goddess Vesta, Wikipedia encyclopedia, subtly the old gods, long title, subtly the old gods had entered their churches, and they live still in the festivals of Christianity. The old gods still live in Christian festivals. The Testament, the Bible, and History by Romer. And in his book, it's pages 230 and 231. All right, so these pagan gods, they've been around for quite a while. And they have worked their way into Christian celebrations to the point that most people don't know what I'm telling you about. They just decorate their fireplace, putting stockings up and all of that, and putting out milk and cookies for Santa, never even questioning. Why? Why am I doing this? What is this about? Getting ready to move on to something else. People not understanding that this is pagan stuff. All right. So, I now want to read for you the Celtic Europe and how this stuff spread. And as you can see there on the we're talking 500 BC. We're talking around 400 BC, 600 BC. The influence because of all of the raids, the places that the Celts are attacking. And as they do that, they're conquering and taking these forms of pagan worship with them. All right? The ancient Celts are no different than people in other parts of the world. They considered the fireplace to be a sacred part of their society. It was the sacred altar of their society that controlled the blessings of life. The central fire was to burn continually, as with Vesta and Hestia. Divination and other religious or family activity flowed out of the worship of the hearth god. So just think about all of these different pieces of the Christmas celebration. I've walked you through these where you may not have thought about what the tree meant. You may not have thought about what ornaments meant. You may not have thought about what mistletoe meant. You may have not have thought about what wreaths meant. You may not have thought about who Santa Claus is and where he came from. You may not have thought about the stockings, the cookies, the hearth. You may not have thought about any of those things. And I'm showing you that each and every one of them is pagan. And I'm showing you over and over and over and over again, one name after another of these pagan gods whose birthdays are on December 25th. No connection whatsoever to Jesus. I had someone, and I've talked about this a little bit before, in defense of the Lord, thought I was insulting the Lord by writing down Xmas. Well, it don't matter what I call it. But because we've been conditioned to think that this really is the celebration of the birth of Christ, that me writing Xmas is somehow an insult. And I get where that person was coming from if you believe all that other stuff that it is connected to Jesus. But I'm proving to you it is not at all. That some of the most simplistic things that we do, Yule logs, burning Yule logs, saying Yuletide greetings, some of the most simplistic things that we do are actually, we're acknowledging pagan gods without even knowing it. And I've also shown you how this spread. Now, what I'm going to do when I do the series Bow is I'm going to start before the birth of Christ. Listen, I'm going to walk you through history of name changes and pagan gods. I'm going to take you all the way from BC. There'll be some leaping we can't do every year. But I'm going to walk you all the way up to today. And I'm going to show you one more time. Yes, it's a series Bow, and it's really supposed to be a Saddam, but I'm going to give you some fresh connections and show you how this filth got into the church and how it grew and how it belonged to the devil before we tried to put God's name on it. Let me finish this up. It's not a long one tonight. Let me finish this up. Well, I don't think it's a long one. We talked a bit last week. Sorry, I just hit the wrong button. Let me fix this. Sorry, guys. So sorry. That's what happens when you get all excited and can't. Here we go. We talked a bit last week about Thor. And so I want to read some things to you. We will finish, kind of finish with this, and then I'm going to give you some more sources. All right. Once again, we are about to see how the mythical worship of Thor mirrors our modern day Santa. Arthur Sheila Ayala, Ayala, says in The Origins of Christmas, that's her book, this is a quote, in Northern Europe, one of the gods that these pagans had was a god they called Thor. Since Thor's element was fire, he was made into a god for the Yuletide. Thor was a friendly god during the Yuletide season. He delivered presents through the chimney because the hearth being used for fire was especially sacred to him. Was especially sacred to him. In a chariot driven by two goats, Cracker and Gnasher, Thor roared across the heavens, causing thunder. Thor was described as a heavy built and long, with a long white beard, and was dressed in red, keeping with association with fire. In a place called Northland, Thor lived in a place surrounded by icebergs. Come on, y'all. If you don't understand that Santa Claus, I don't know what else to do tonight. Thus, Thor was a winter god who gave people encouragement during the bleak winter months. All of this is connected to the winter solstice, right? Evergreens and holly, things that can produce fruit in the winter, were looked at in a godlike fashion because they had the ability during harsh winters to still produce. And so they were given a special place. All right. Thus, Thor was a winter god who gave people encouragement during the winter months. In searching, this is a quote, for a replacement for Thor, the church supplanted Thor with St. Nicholas. In later centuries, the figures of Thor and Santa Claus coalesced. Santa Claus is credited with placing gifts and stockings by the fireplace, and Thor is responsible for the tradition of coming down the chimney bringing gifts. Thor's chariot is now a sleigh, and his goats have become reindeers. In modern times, Santa Claus is always depicted as being dressed in red with a white beard, a remnant of the old Thor god of Yuletide. One story about St. Nicholas corresponds with the deeds of Thor, and you can find that in The Origins by Sheila Ayala. Origins of Christmas, specifically Thor. Okay. So we got all of these pagan gods in different places, under different names, performing the same kinds of things on December 25th. Author Terry Walkins of the book Santa Claus, the Great Imposter says, it seems the chimney tale came to us via Thor, the mythical god of fire and lightning. Satan and Thor are symbolized by a lightning bolt, Luke 10:18. Thor's name means thunder. That's where we get the word Thursday, by the way, side note. The Thor story goes like this. Most families in the pre-patriarchal Scandinavian world would have an altar to Thor, their fireplace. Every year on his birthday, December 25th, Thor would come down the chimney to his altar of fire and bring presents to the kiddies. Thor was nicknamed Claus of the Cinders, or Center Claus, aka Santa Claus, because it was believed he would be singed as he went into the fireplace. That is taken from the book, again, Santa Claus, the Great Imposter by Terry Watkins. You can find this stuff, y'all. Are you getting this? Is there enough consistency in what I'm saying that this is sinking in? The Bible tells us 1 John chapter 2, verses 15 to 17, don't love the world, neither things that are in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. And all that is in the world, lust, flesh, lust of the eyes, and the pride of life is not of the Father, but is of the world. And the world will pass away. But God, gonna endure forever. So we can't be so hooked up in wanting to please the people around us that we ignore what these things, what these symbols mean. Because an apostate is somebody that walks away from knowing the truth. And I know that may be harsh. It's not true. Got my phone on Do Not Disturb. I'm getting calls anyway. Christmas has absolutely nothing to do with Jesus. Nothing to do with Jesus. No way at all. No connection. So the next time somebody says Merry Christmas to you, you need to think about what that really means. Let me finish this up by giving you some other sources, sorry. Christmas Customs Around the World is the title of the book by Herbert H. Wernickel. Do You Know What I Know? Jim Cook. I have that book. It's great. Been using it for years. Merry Christmas, A History of the Holiday by Patricia Bunning Stevens. The Christian Jew publication Is Christmas a Jewish Holiday? The Handbook of Christian Feasts and Customs by Francis X. Weiser. He's a Catholic priest. New York, Harcourt, Brace, and World Incorporated. Now, what's interesting about when I've had conversations about this with Catholics, many of them know But I don't know what was explained to them that makes it okay. I'm a little confused about that. But many of them know what the truth is. But now you know. Now you have truth. You have evidence. And Wednesday, I'm going to give you even more. That's my message for tonight. I'm Pastor Jackie Jackson. May the Lord bless you. Thank you for your time.